I'm at the Surveillance Summit 2019 and I'm joined by Rob Houghton from Insightful Technology. Rob, how can banks convert the art of possible of surveillance into reality, both in short and longer term?
Well, from what we've been experiencing with our client base is the starting point is always their infrastructure they already have. So the starting point is always identifying which parts of their infrastructure can be joined together, which ones can't. So until you build down that baseline of what you've got, of your infrastructure, what can be captured, what can be exported for analytics and surveillance purposes, you really can't start. You can take a starting point when we've got a high point of risk, but at the end of the day, if you listen to all the discussions we've been having this morning, Simon Jenkins, I've got a list of names of the speakers, Mr. Brody, everybody was saying the same thing. They wish they'd started with their data before they went and looked at it. And that data is your legacy systems. So taking that, understanding what that is, because if you actually want to get the benefits of surveillance that can be created by technology, the point is all about how can we not have to have 1,000 people in India actually analysing the data on my behalf. That starts with understanding what you understand in technology. If you start in the wrong place, you will have thousands of people at the end. So start there, work out which sources you can amalgamate, which ones you can't, which ones you can create your hierarchical view on, and which ones from a budgeting perspective you can phase out so you can actually reach the holy grail. That's your starting point. Start that journey in parallel with what you want to survey and the risk associated with them, and you're nearly there. But take that to the next step is, go to any bank today, you won't find anywhere where they offer you a golden source of data, okay? The golden source is the key to surveillance. If you don't understand, I'm Rob Houghton, and I'm rob.h on Twitter or whatever else, okay? You can't normalize that data to use all your analytic tools on it, okay? So every bank, and I go to lots of them, and it's scary how many people I'll sit in a room with and go, who owns the global source of data? And you sit there and they all go, I've got one. And he said, I've got one, and you end up in a single bank having 15 people who all believe they have that golden source where you've got the name, the role, the risk associated with that person. Nobody joins that together. If that's not joined, you can forget getting accurate data, because you're trying to plan what you're doing now, you're planning for tomorrow, not today. So unless those two basic building blocks are put in place, you're not going to get there.
How do you think banks are being perhaps short-sighted in their understanding or their approach to effective regulatory technology solutions across the three lines?
When we look at it, we see most of our customers go for, they collect their data. Then you analyze the data and then look and goes, that's rubbish. In reality, it's an iterative approach. If you're going to remove those false positives out of their data, they only achieve that by engineering that data. So you don't touch that core data, but how you associate it, how you associate the tags with it, that has to be done over and over and over again. You can't just change the model over here, because that's a simple process. You've got to go back to your core data. And no one's looking at that as an iterative. They think they're going to stick it in Amazon or Azure or something, and it's there, it's safe. But in reality, you then got all your compute time that's going to be associated with it, and nobody understands necessarily what the true cost of that re-engineering of all that data is. Also, you've got to look at the compliance officer, because if you're going to go and create this massive holistic view, there's massive risk associated with all that data being in one place. So who's watching the compliance officer and what he's doing with the data as well? So from a value perspective to the banks, security, jurisdictional process, evidential way to what you're doing and presenting. If it's electronic, most people know it can be hacked. So wherever you store all this data, make sure that it can't be touched.
Can AI, BI, neural networks of e-coms and market data step change the effectiveness of surveillance functions today?
Let's start with the basics. Again, there's no holy grail. Okay, AI and BI is a buzzword we use today, but it's just, again, it's small steps. So if you look at the AI and the BI space, voice to text in the last 24 months has taken massive headroom. There's massive change. We've gone from 40 to 50% accuracy to literally we've got engines running in our systems today which hitting 80, 90% accuracy of the spoken voice. Our conversation now, we probably get over 95% with no learning required whatsoever. So that's a massive step forward. But unless you know what you want to do with the data, great, I've got voice to text. What do you want to do with it? What value does it have from a surveillance perspective? Now, under MiFID 2, if I've got to listen to 10 or 12% of my recordings every day, that's that job, that's that mundane role removed, okay? Look at neural networks. Neural networks are fantastic, but what no one tells you is, if you put shit into it, you get even more shit out, okay? So the use of neural networks is only ready once you've got 2 or 3 years of structured data from a legacy perspective. So solve the problem today for tomorrow, and your AI and BI tools in 2 or 3 years' time will have an infinite amount of value to you.
Rob, thank you very much for joining us.
David, it's been a fantastic event. Thank you so much.